What screams I'm way richer than I look? I went to dinner with a GF and her parents. After we ate, the owner came out and asked how the meal was, and then we left without a bill ever coming to the table. On the way home I asked GF about it and she said her dad had tabs at all the restaurants he liked to eat at. As we were leaving, the valet brought the cars around and I mentioned I liked his Tahoe. I asked what year it was and he kind laughed and said whatever is the newest one. I didn't know he owned a car dealership in another city. After we ate, the owner. I work at a luxury resort. People call to book rooms with me all day and they aren't cheap. I can tell when it's obvious a young couple who had to scrape together the dough for the cheapest room. But every once in a while I'll get a call from someone who casually calls and asks to book the biggest room without asking for the price. They know exactly what they want and the price means nothing to them. 2. $5K a night? No biggie. Here is my card number. When you said a young couple who had to scrape, I had reason to frequent a small but popular marina at a certain Gulf Coast city. I encountered one old man often enough we greeted each other with random chit chat. Lovely gentleman. He wore a crumpled old hat, a grease spotted t-shirt, cut off jeans, and worn deck shoes. He always putted around the largest yacht in the marina, about 60 feet long. He would polish the chrome, wash the deck, clean the life preservers. I didn't assume he was the maintenance guy because he had such self-confidence. I never saw him actually take it out. I got up the nerve to ask security who he was. He owned most the commercial real estate in the city. They avoid any discussion of money. When paying for anything they like to do it privately, quietly, before anyone else is aware. So you end up walking in and out of places feeling like you haven't paid. Almost as if money doesn't exist. They don't flaunt it. Source. I was dating a girl and didn't realize she and her whole family were rich until her dad picked us up for dinner in a brand new Mercedes. Proceeded to pay for everything during our trip. And our Christmas presents were first class flights to the US from Australia for a ski holiday. That's around 10 Australian dollars 15k, 7 US dollars 11k per person. He also financially supports his other daughter at Cornell University living in the US. I grew up poor and still am. Lol. But I never realized how poor until I met that family. Brands that are so expensive that us poor people haven't heard them. That's how I've seen my tools as of late. When I first started working, I would buy the cheapest brand of tools just to have them. I worked for guys that owned really nice tools that they had bought 10-15 years before and still use them. I saw one called Fieldpiece and asked how much he paid for the multimeter. I had just bought my first one at $30. He bought his for $240 and had a lifetime service warranty on them. Within a couple of months, mine stopped working. There is a reason why people spend thousands on their tools. When asked about their income, they respond with "I'm comfortable" without elaborating. The type that nonchalantly offers you a spot in their luxury box at a game or concert. Or covers your course fees at a golf outing even though you barely know them. Knew a gentleman that lived fairly modest. One time mentioned I was looking forward to going to a NBA game for the local team. He said, "Oh, that's nice. If you stop by the office I give you some better seats." I didn't think much of it but did need to go by the office for work. Checked in at the front. "Hey, I am so and so and here to see boss." "Hello, I have your courtside tickets and he will be down in a few to sign your form." She handed me 5 courtside seats. He had them for every game in case he or a customer wanted to go. Being unimpressed by rich people's tea. Wearing a t-shirt and jeans in a room of people wearing suits. My company CEO does this all the time. Back in high school I used to do rowing. And at the rowing club there was this guy who wasn't great at socializing. Was a little awkward. But he was friendly so I didn't mind him. We often went out on the same boats and would talk to each other as much as was possible while rowing. And at the end his dad would always pick him up afterwards wearing sweatpants, slippers and a hoodie. You might understand why. Then, I didn't believe my friend when he told me that they were one of the richest families in the world. I looked them up. And sure enough, there they were. Worth an estimated $15.5 billion. Now whenever I see someone out in public looking like they're wearing what they slept in, I always assume they're mega rich and don't care about a thing anymore. Not knowing prices for common household items, foodstuffs. Either they're getting the super deluxe version and don't know the standard price, or they haven't done their own food shopping for years. Edit. To clarify, it's not about knowing the exact price of a product, most don't. But having no real conception of even a ballpark figure. Being used to buying vastly more expensive things. They get what they believe to be cheap. Yes. Like Bill Gates' appearance on Ellen. It's one banana. What could it cost? $10? Not flexing your stupid brand clothing. If they are over 60 but have perfect teeth. This applies more in countries other than the US because everyone seems to have perfect teeth there. Really good teeth cost a lot of money. My boss drives a $2,000 Mercedes from the 80s. Usually wears jeans and TTY clothes at all times. No jewelry or watch. Owns a 150k USD house. He's worth $2 billion. Yeah. Old boss to a company I worked for. He drove an old Toyota Hilux and worked in the factory of the building. I remember work breakup I spotted him put 300,000 on a roulette table. Doubled it and put it in his pocket. He would always ask me impossible questions at work, and once I got it right, he bought me lunch. When people think of expensive clothing, they often think of fancy brands like Gucci. But really rich people usually consider these brands to be tacky for the most part. There are entire luxury brands of suits, dresses, clothing, watches, etc. that are used to display wealth among upper class people that would be kind of innocuous to the average person. Most anyone could recognize a Rolex. But to a person who isn't in on upper class mores, a Patek Philippe might slip under their nose. Wearing casual clothes to a rich party. One of my high school bros is effing rich, while rest of us are very normal. He did nothing special. But he always wander around at near shops after school, some random branded shop that no high school boys will ever need. One time we finally asked him why he didn't went back home after school. He said he is waiting for his driver to come. Another time I met him very coincidentally at the boarding place at the airport. I was going to Vienna and he is to London. He has nothing on him. No bags or carriages. And his hair is wet. Turns out he just took a shower in the lounge. Afterward. There was this one time where I had to attend a meeting with the company president. I had to wake up hella early cause the meeting was arranged early in the morning. We were all in formal attire and very serious. I expected the president to be the same. But instead, he showed up in his pajamas with his cute Pikachu mug and asked us, "Why the hell are you in suits so early in the damned morning?" Full stop. It honestly made me smile and took all my nervousness away. I read somewhere riches scream and wealth whispers. Money talks. Wealth whispers. Status symbols are for the lower classes and the climbers. The wealthy just live in whatever is comfortable to them. I remember being in a cruise and one of the families in one of the penthouse suites didn't sleep in their suite when we were at Bora Bora overnight because they had rented an overwater bungalow, minimum $1,000 a night. Same family got a hotel room when anchored at another atoll because they wanted to use the hotel services while spending time on the white sand beach. I have a friend from the top 1-2% in his respective country, but you'd never be able to tell. Except he'd always pay for our food when we went out with him and would sometimes be confused about the price of certain things or why we couldn't just do certain things, because they'd require big amounts of money. Another certainly wealthy foreign friend invited my entire family to stay in his family's second house. He never talks about money, but it somehow slipped that he's got a golden credit card, although I don't know the implications behind having such. Or a wealthy family I used to live with. We went to McDonald's drive-thru in our pajamas several times. Very carefree. Brand new car. Top of the range. Read a bunch of comments and didn't see this. Freedom over their time. Not having a steady job or having to constantly be somewhere at a specific time. Going on multiple family vacations a year and not bringing back many trinkets. A lot of small in the know things. Like a certain wristwatch that costs a fortune but for most people is indistinguishable from afar from say a $2,000 watch. Or a really expensive pen. There's a lot of famous really expensive looking clothes and accessories like Dolce & Gabbana or Montblanc. Stuff that's noticeable and recognizable. But then there's a whole bunch of way more discreet fashion and design brands that can cost a tenfold more and are at first glance indistinguishable from the normal high price range. They usually have a discreet logo or a distinct feature by which you can tell them apart. While they certainly have a good quality lots of times, their price-performance ratio is basically non-existent. So I think they exist only for the precise purpose of saying I'm way richer than I look. Understanding many millionaires are cokeheads but very few cokeheads become millionaires. Not flexing their shit but you still feel like they flex their Lego Death Star at you. I had a very rich friend who invited me to her birthday dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant. I almost didn't go because I knew I wouldn't be able to cover my share of the bill. But I saved up for it to be a good friend. I showed up and she had rented out the entire restaurant and covered the bill for the 3-course dinner with specialty cocktails for all 100 guests. Several of whom she had flown in from Europe to join her. I knew she was rich. But not that rich. Having the mindset as long as it still works. I don't need a new one. Edit. I'm not rich. But I can afford the things I need. It's just I don't see the reason why I need to buy new things. A lot of people mentioned rich guys wearing regular or super relaxed clothing and just not giving a FCK. And while I definitely think that's true, oftentimes, paired with that outfit, they wear an insanely expensive watch. It's just something most people don't notice because they don't know what these watches look like. They're never home and constantly traveling. Could just be a truck driver. Wearing sunglasses on the shirt instead of on top of the head. I had a job where I came in contact with quite a few very wealthy people. They all did this. I deduced that it's because rich people have solid, heavy sunglasses. Probably expensive hair too. Not looking at the cost when shopping. Just paying whatever it is with your card and moving out. No keys. Mark Zuckerberg in his grey shirt and jeans. He's just trying his best to look human. I used to think men in suits ran the world. Then I realized they work for men in pajamas. Working not because you need the income, but because you enjoy the power of your position. My mom used to work for a guy that was a VP of an international corporation. Basically handling all their finances and legal issues. He owned several malls too and invested in large amounts of property. He was in his 70s. At a Christmas party one year, somebody asked him why he hadn't retired. With a smile, he responded with, "It's not about the money." Not knowing the price of cheap food at all, such as instant ramen or cheapest TTY sandwich. My grandma's father is CEO of Huge Car International Corporation. So when we went to store along, she was so surprised seeing the price of cheapest instant ramen, and also she said that doesn't know how they actually taste with kind of confused innocent face. Look at the watch and shoes. That's always a tell. Some rich people dress like shitty, but they always get good watches. First class seats. Not business. Edit. We're talking about international flights on brand airlines. Not your Spirit Air 2 hours jump. And feeling comfortable. I worked at a bank for several years in the early 2010. Everyone that is broke as FCK would come in looking like hot tea. A lot of disheveled looking older folks were the loaded ones. My boss wears cargo shorts, a polo shirt, TTY sneakers, and a snapback hat every single day. He coordinates the hat color with the shirt. Lol, it's like a cartoon closet and generally looks like the guy that should be mopping up the floor. He's worth 5 mil. Customers who would otherwise be yelling to speak to the owner walk past him without batting an eye. A homeless man getting into a Lamborghini. A sedan with a V12. Buying popcorn at movies. A weird zen you can only achieve when you have no financial pressures and you can focus on yourself and those around you. When she is smoking hot and you look like a broke ass Ron Jeremy. Banker here. The wealthier clients are, the less they're concerned about their appearance. When you're broke you care what people think. When you're loaded you can be as eccentric as you want. Also look at assets rather than money in the bank. I see people that make millions every year with seemingly little savings because they're paying down 10+ mortgages at a time. You may see a fancy car, but I find that watches and houses are far more of an indicator. In a restaurant, when a waiter recommends the most expensive things to the plain looking guy. Or a plain looking guy with a girl that looks so hot you could roast a marshmallow on her. Truth is, if you are the boss owner of the company making big money, play it down. The employees will like you more, work harder if you are a show off. They are certain to bitch. Drive a piece of shitty car to work. Here. I typed out some extra commas for you. Since your keyboard apparently doesn't have them. Comma. Crocs. People who make money by owning stuff and not by producing anything. Bachelor plus master's degrees from a private university. Debt free. I've had money in my life and learned that the easiest way to live is without stress. That's why I love shopping at Walmart or Target for clothes, because it's stress free, not worrying about ruining them. I own a company and always wear jeans and shirts. My mantra being, if you don't hire me because of my clothes then I don't want to work with you anyways. I own a Hyundai because it has a 100,000 mile warranty and I pay for the tire warranty and have received a whopping 9, free tires in just under 3 years. I live in an apartment because I hate shoveling snow and raking leaves and paying for repairs. Very unassuming life, and that's the way I like it. TTY looking clothes that are actually super expensive. No labels. Bespoke clothing doesn't need a big ad. Everything is a perfect fit and new. Iron armor and corners on the Nether portal. The poor impress with what they wear. The middle class impress with what they drive. The upper middle class impress with where they live. The wealthy impress with what they do. A very sharp haircut with a professional blowout every few days. You can dress down all you want, but expensive hair is always noticeable. Have you seen Mark Zuckerberg? A jar of Grey Poupon. Mustard is for common people. When my place got wrecked by Hurricane Harvey, I mistook the owner of the hotel I wound up at with a customer. His clothes looked great, but they also looked just one step above Walmart. He would also bring dinner to the guests on Wednesday nights, which him and his staff would personally cook. He was extremely easy to talk to, even knowing that he owned the place I was staying at. Doing really well at a lot of mobile games at the same time. Adam Sandler. A lot of these comments just scream I've never been around rich people and just believe what the media tells me they are. Not trying to show your money by wearing it or constantly spending. My parents are very wealthy. My dad wears the same clothes he had in the 70s or free t-shirt he's gotten along the way. Mum gets a lot of her clothes at Costco. They only have one car and it's a 2011 Lexus because it works well and they don't see the need to buy a new one. They live in a $3 million house because it's in the safest neighborhood and has all the things they wanted for their grandkids to come be able to play. Really wealthy people just do themselves and don't care what others think. Using summer as a verb. It poor people describing other poor people trying to look rich. Modest clothing with great hair. Good teeth. And expensive shoes. Converse throw this off however. Toyota Land Cruiser. Getting on a long haul flight in first class wearing sloppy clothes because you haven't had to blag an upgrade. He says they're going on vacation. And if you ask where, he says they're going on a winery tour. If you leave it at that, he won't tell you they're actually going to France. Or was that last year and it's Italy this year? It's time to restock the wine cellar. You see, the wife is from generational wealth. The self-perpetuating kind. This is a family capable of committing to a Chinese goods-free year and sticking to it. This is a family who always goes to the same place for Christmas break. BC, they own a second home in the mountains. And you wouldn't know any of this by just looking. You have to know them and, at that, ask questions. Because real wealth flies well below the radar. Back in the day, it was driving station wagons. But higher-end foreign models. It was a very understated way of saying, I am successful and wealthy enough to take care of my family comfortably. I'm driving a very well-built family car. And I have enough money that I really don't care what you think.